Helene, can you hear us okay? Awesome. Great. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for coming today. Welcome to the Hāmākua CDP Action Committee meeting. The Hāmākua Action Committee meeting will now come to order. The time is 5:33. As a reminder, per sunshine law, AC members appearing remotely must keep their cameras on and announce anyone who is with them, except for minors, in their location. Okay. We'll start off with roll call and introductions. Committee member Brad Kurokawa.
Here.
Mr. David Meyer,
Here.
Mr. Richard Beidelman,
Here.
Mr. Robert Nishimoto,
Here.
Mr. Tankini,
Here.
and Ms. Tisha Mahalani Maiku.
Here.
Mahalani, if you wouldn't mind letting us know if there's anybody around you.
No, my honey was here, but he left. I'm in the car, and I have my earphones in, so nobody can hear.
Okay. Now for county officials and staff and the planning department, we have myself, I am Paula, planning and community planning section. We have Ms. Janice Panta right here and Ms. Cabello Khalili. This is Cabello's second week on the job, everybody.
Hey.
We're getting through this. Okay. And from the Office of Corporation Counsel, we have Deputy Corporation Counsel St. Clair Salas Ferguson.
Question.
Yes.
Crystal Kua was at the meeting last month. You didn't call her name.
I didn't call her name. Her term expired in December. We've reached out to her if she was interested in being a holdover. We haven't had no responses, so we are under the assumption that she's not interested in continuing.
Thank you.
Okay. So sorry. Announcements. We want to give a big mahalo to Dr. Tom Keating for serving as chair for 2023. Action Committee chairs serve a term of 1 year that expired in December. At this meeting, we'll be electing a new chair and vice chair. And then I would like to move over to Hawaii County Council Chairperson, Ms. Heather Kimball, to provide County Council updates related to the Hāmākua community development.
Thank you. Should I go in the hot seat? I guess I will. Hi, good afternoon, evening, everyone. Wanted to update particularly on a bill that we discussed and passed today, Bill 82. Bill 82 provides a mechanism for communities to funding and support for paving and repair of private roadways. Don't get excited too much because this doesn't cover roads in limbo. This is just privately owned roads. And it is going to be a lengthy process. There has to be a submission to Department of Public Works identifying the needs, the feasibility, and there has to be justification with respect to, this provides an emergency route. This is a route for buses. This is a route that first responders regularly use, things like that. But it is quite a big deal because we haven't had this ability in the past to do work on public roadways. It is set to take effect within a year because it's going to take DPW a little time to set up rules, procedure, and things like that. So wanted to make everybody aware that that passed today. Councilmember Connie Kleinfelder introduced that bill and is going to be introducing a second similar piece of legislation related to roads in limbo. And I know that that has been a concern for this group. So when that comes forward, I will be certain to let you know so that you can weigh in on that matter. Other thing I've mentioned previously, the short-term vacation rental bills, the bed and breakfast bill, and the Ohana bill. Those are submitted officially and will be heard on the January 23rd in the planning committee. This is the first hearing, and At this first hearing, what we do is we just refer it to the planning commission, since this is an amendment to chapter 25, the zoning code. It will have to go to both the planning commissions before coming back to council committee. The bills will be available probably in the next couple of days on hawaiicountytar.com. So the first one, the TAR bill, just ensures that we are registering all folks that are running transient accommodation rentals, that they're operating safely and legally. We also have added some language. It was initially going to be a separate bill that provides some hosting platform accountability so that your Airbnbs, VRBOs are making sure to share those registration numbers and are only advertising for legal vacation rentals. In addition, the B&B bill sunsets the bed and breakfast program, just because that will now all be covered in the TAR bill. And then finally, the last bill of this package is the Ohana bill, which is basically to make it much easier for folks to build Ohana dwellings for multifamily use, for long-term rentals, but not actually used as transient accommodation rentals. So we wanted to make it super easy to build them. We will be essentially making all residential zoning multifamily. If you can fit it, you can have multiple houses on it. That includes fitting the wastewater system though, so you'd have to have appropriate septic. But that allows for people to expand the housing opportunities for them and their families on their properties. So the bills are Bill 121, Bill 122, and Bill 123 respectively. And with that, I think that
Heather,
covers,
you talked about the first bill.
yes.
Does that relate to pedestrian safety as well?
Oh, it could be, yeah.
Well, I read that the county got $1 million for pedestrian, primarily for pedestrian safety.
Mhm.
That, it doesn't sound like what you were just talking about. You're talking about private roads.
Yeah, so it would have to do with pedestrian safety from the standpoint of that would be one of the factors that could be considered in the application. The program that you're talking about was all those safe route to school, the walkways that they put in around the county.
And then we're just talking about pedestrian sidewalks in general.
Yeah, no, this bill wouldn't cover the sidewalks, just the roadways. So if there's unsafe conditions on the roadways presented to pedestrians, that would certainly be one of the factors that would be considered in that bill.
Okay.
So it's kind of cloudy. You mentioned private roads.
Yes,
So would our tax dollars be used for private roads?
they would be if they serve a public purpose to do maintenance on them. So because we're using public funds, there has to be a public justification.
For sure.
For sure.
100%.
Yeah, that's written into the bill that there has to be some sort of public.
That, is there any type of board that's gonna manage that to make sure that's exactly what it's used for?
The rules are, there has to be agreement from the Department of Public Works, Civil Defense, Police, Fire, and Mass Transit. They have to all weigh in on whether or not this would serve a public purpose.
And would that be going to public discussion as well?
No, there would be a public hearing, there would be public hearings around the rules. But there is not a public decision-making on the feasibility or the criteria.
So. Humor me. So if I had a farm over here
Mhm,
and I had a dirt road and I wanted to get it paved,
mhm.
I could say, oh, you can go ahead and put a fire hydrant on it, but pave my road. Would that qualify?
No, there'd be limits. It has to serve at least 50 residences. So there is, yes, so there is a requirement that there's a sufficient population to be served. It's also only going to apply if funds are available. And that is one of the other caveats here is that most of the funding that we use for public roadways is required by state or federal law to only be used on public roadways, which means that funding for this would probably come from specific grant opportunities that would allow for that. But we haven't had that mechanism in the past to do that pass through. This actually creates the pass through. So under the current structure, with the funds that we typically use for road work, those funds are not applicable on private roadways. So we're gonna have to look for other sources of revenue to support this program.
I have people texting me saying that we can't get in on the Zoom.
Oh,
They cannot hear.
they cannot get in?
Yeah, they can't get in. They tried like a few times and they still can't get in. They just want to be a part of this. They're downside to the people.
Like they can't get in through the waiting list or if there's nobody in the waiting list.
Oh, Robert, what about Steve, then too, because I just got this info, similar info.
Say presumably they put out there, they're not work, tried several times, and then say it's around, even if they take something.
Yeah.
The messenger.
No,
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
no, no,
uh,
we can.
Instead of put it down, but I
Ah,
applied to both rural and urban.
Yes, so the Ohana rule applies to both rural and residential designations. It does not apply where the underlying state land use is agricultural. And that is something else that I'm working on because we have areas that are state land use agricultural, but they really are rural. So when I look at Ba'auhau as an example, you have that cluster of 100 and so homes down there. That's all state land use ag underneath. They cannot build Ohanas on those lots. If we were to change their designation, state land use designation to rural, then they could. And so, when we're thinking about housing opportunities, I think that that's an important mechanism rather than just building a bunch of subsidized housing.
Yeah, yeah.
And so what we're looking at doing is working with the state to have them give us the authority when the community wants, with the small ag parcels, not the big ones, but
Yeah.
the small ones. If there's a critical mass that wants to convert to rural, we can do that without having to go through the land use commission at the state. Yeah, I think it'd be really
Yeah.
powerful. We have, if you were to take all the ag lots that are, or all the lots that are less than an acre on this island, that's 50,000 lots that could be converted to rural and allow for that second dwelling.
I'm a little confused on the land use designations. Rural, there's also a low density urban, mid density urban. What's the difference there? In other words, am I looking at two different sets of designations or?
No, so low density urban, rural and ag, and am I missing it? I think Bethany was on. Am I missing any of the state land uses?
Conservation, of course.
Conservation, thank you. That's an important one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those are the state land use designations.
I see.
That is set by the state, and then overlaying that is we have our zoning, so.
Oh, okay.
And we can have certain zoning in certain state land uses, right? So one feeds into the other, and that's why when you see a rezoning ordinance, you see the state land use, you see the zoning, you see the CDP.
I see.
Those are the three kind of guiding levels of what can be used on a property, what can be done.
I see.
It confuses me sometimes.
Yeah.
I guess that's it.
Yeah.
Happy to answer any other questions that we get to later subjects. Yeah.
Mariam. Are you able to fix that Zoom thing? Do we
Yeah,
want you to?
send him the link, but are there any other announcements? Maybe from the AC members?
Did you want to take a quick break and maybe try to see if you can resolve the Zoom link? Okay, and it should work. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
and then we can move on to the elections.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, right now we are. So again, my name is Sinclair Solis Ferguson. I'm the Deputy Corporation Counsel assigned to this committee, and Because we don't have a chairperson right now, I'm going to run the election for the new chairperson. And I want to say a few things before we get into that. So as was mentioned earlier, committee member, former chairperson, Dr. Tom Kinney. His term as chairperson expired December 31st, 2023. Therefore, as a requirement of the Hawaii County Code, this committee is required to elect a new chairperson at this meeting. And the committee should also elect a vice chairperson in the event that the chairperson is not available. A few things, it makes the most sense to elect a chairperson who is not a holdover, because a holdover could be replaced at any time. Currently, the members of the board that aren't holdovers are David Meyer, Richard Beidelman, and Tisha Mahealani Maikui. Those are the three board members that aren't holdovers. My further understanding is that committee member David Meyer may be willing to serve as chairperson. I don't have any information regarding whether any other committee member is interested in serving as chair or vice chair. And just a few things for whoever's considering being chairperson. As we all know, in the past few years, the planning department experienced a lack of personnel, and therefore it was unable to provide a desirable level of technical and substantive support. But now the planning department has hired multiple new employees to support the action committee. And whoever the new chair is will work in conjunction with the planning department and our office of Corporation Counsel to set agendas that fulfill the duties and responsibilities as they are articulated in the Hawaii County Code and as envisioned by the members of this committee and the community members that they're connected to. And I want to be clear that whoever volunteers to serve as the chair will be supported by the planning department, myself as a representative of Corp Counsel, and all the other committee members. With all that being said, the floor is now open for nominations, meaning that you can nominate a fellow committee member to serve as chair, or you can nominate yourself. And Hawaii County Code requires any action of this committee to be a majority of the members present. So right now we have 6 members present, so it would be a vote of at least 4 people to nominate whoever is willing to serve as chair. And again, the preference being that the new chair not be a holdover.
Do we have to be a new chair? Can we re-elect somebody who was our chair? I'm talking like, for example, could I put Tom's name in to be the new chair?
I don't think there's anything that prohibits that, but the preference would be to have somebody whose not a holdover, because Tom, he could be replaced next month.
Because
He's a holdover, his term has expired, his term as a board member. Not only his chairperson term expired, but also his term as a member on the committee has expired. So he's what's called a holdover.
who's gonna say he's expired?
Well, it is expired.
It's an annual,
Yeah.
so you're a chair for 1 year, so 2023, so the calendar would say that. So now that we're in 2024.
Right.
So, yeah, does that answer your question?
No, what I'm saying is, could I nominate Tom to be the chair for 2024?
Yes, you can. Nothing prohibits that, but the preference is that we have somebody.
Well, who's saying the preference is what?
So I'm saying it right now, so
Okay,
just
well-
based on a rationale being that Tom is a holdover and to be replaced,
No offense, but you're not part of the community.
the community.
You're
Well,
not part of
I will also say that I would prefer not being chair.
the-
And
Okay.
so I would probably decline that nomination. But I will also say that 2 weeks ago, the South Kohala Committee elected a chair that was a holdover since 2020. And 2 days ago, the Kona Committee elected a chair that was a holdover. And so I don't think that there's a problem with it, but I would rather not be chair. And consequently, I would myself nominate David, see if David wants to be.
And are you willing, David?
And I have a question, is there somebody that wants the job? Is there somebody that you can vote on and actually? Like wants it, you see that amazing.
So that's what we're doing right now. That's what they're figuring out. So. No, so any of the board members could be chair for 2024. So right now, we're doing the election right now. So
And Mahealani on,
Mahealani as well.
Does she want?
I don't know. That's what we're gonna figure out right now.
that's what we're, yeah, we have
Hello, Mike, can you ask them to speak louder if they're not up front? I brought it in the
So
way
the-
that I have a little bit hard time to hear him.
Just wanted to know if anyone actually wanted the job.
So, I'll speak to that, Mehalani. So the gentleman in the room is asking if anyone wants the job, and the past couple meetings, we tried to elect the chair and nobody volunteered. And so right now, Ton has served it for 2023, Dr. Keeney, and he's ready to move on, pass on the reins. And my understanding is Mr. David Myers has, tentatively agreed to accept that responsibility, and Ton just nominated him. So right now,
Just sounds like he doesn't want.
I,
It's like,
who,
it's the
me?
Best served the job that actually wants to do it.
no, he will.
Well, excuse, are you talking about me?
No.
Okay.
Whoever's.
Oh.
Do you want the job?
Well, this is part of, like you said, the process. I mentioned last time that I'm willing to take it if I'm basically assured that the county is gonna take on the responsibility of doing the things that the committee needs to succeed. And I think there's been some assurances that that's gonna happen, so I'm more willing than I was before.
Certainly, let me say that I've been very impressed with the response of the county over the last, several months. Before that, they just didn't have the personnel to be available. And but I'm very confident that the county is going to step up with whatever you might need from them. And certainly in any transition, I'd be happy to help. So,
Right?
Yeah.
I knew you would, or will,
Sure.
or
Okay,
whoever.
and can I just speak to him? So I just became a part of the board, a part of the action committee, I believe, in November, December. Honestly, I feel, even though I grew up in Hāmākua, I feel that I'm still new to the process. And so when I was asked if I wanted that kuleana, right now I'm dealing with some personal things that I cannot take on that kuleana. However, being a chair is my goal. So maybe down the line, I'll do it, but right now I can't. So mahalo. Mahalo, Dave, for taking on that kuleana.
We shall see.
Thank you, thank you.
So right now, Ton has nominated David. David, do you accept the nomination?
Yes, I'll accept the nomination. I just want to reiterate that I did have some concerns, and I think if we all look at chapter 16 and read what our role is and what the county's role is, and we make sure that role is fulfilled by the county, and everybody works together, I think it can work. It's going to be a learning curve, of course. So, yes.
So, Ton, do you want to make a motion to move that David Meyer serve as chair for 2020?
Yes, I make that motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on David Meyer serving as chair for 2024?
I have a question. Do you sit on any outside boards with, as far as like developers or construction or anything like that?
No,
Kalamai, the mute button is on the county side, so none of us can hear you.
Mahealani, can you hear anything? You can hear us?
Oh, great.
Oh, she's muted. Can you get, yeah, Mahealani, can you just do one more thumbs up, Mahealani, if you can hear us?
Okay, yes, now I can, but I
Okay.
keep, the screen keeps freezing. So I don't know if it's my internet or the internet there.
Yeah, okay, so let's reconvene, so where we're at right now, David Meyer's been nominated, any further discussion on the motion on the floor, which is to have David serve for 2024?
Call for the question.
Okay, so we'll go for the votes, I'll do a roll call vote, and start with, Mr. Committee Member Robert Nishimoto,
Yes.
Committee Member Brad Kurokawa,
Yes.
Committee Member Richard Bidelman,
Yes.
Committee Member Tom Keeney,
Aye.
Committee Member Tisha Mehelani Maikui,
Yes. And you guys can just call me Ayalani, it's fine.
okay, Mehelani, thank you. And finally, David Meyer.
I abstain.
Okay, great. So we're gonna do this again for vice chair. Does anyone want to nominate anyone for vice chair, or is anyone willing to serve as vice chair for 2024? And the vice chair would just be filling in the event that Chair David Meyer is not available. And then, you know, that'd be a situation where I think everybody would want to hold the meeting and not cancel the meeting. Anyone, Brad?
So I'd like to nominate Mahia if she's willing.
That's how you learn the process, man.
That's what I
Gotta
got.
be part of it.
And Mahealani,
He's in the doing.
Don't even ask, just vote.
Mahia, so are you willing to serve as vice chair for 20?
Yes.
Okay,
I second the nomination.
so we need a motion first that Mahealani serve as vice
I
chair.
move to nominate Mahia and yes, vice chair.
Second by Committee Member Tom Kinney. Any discussion by any of the members?
Call for the question.
Call for the question. Let's go to a roll call vote. We'll start with Committee Member Robert Nishimoto,
Yes.
Committee Member Brad Kurokawa,
Aye.
Committee Member Richard Bidelman,
Yes.
Committee Member Tom Kinney,
Yes.
Chair David Meyer,
Yes,
and Mahealani.
I abstain.
The 5 votes in favor, 1 abstention, the motion carries. So for 2024, congratulations, David Meyer, you're the new chair, and Mahealani, the new vice chair.
Okay, can I encourage everybody who's sitting there in the audience to be a part, because we have 3 that are newbies and 3 that are kind of like, you know, the other 3 guys have been there for the long haul, but for you guys to get involved and be a part of your community's action committee. Mahalo. That's just, I just want to put that out there.
Thank you, Mahealani. Did anyone else want to say anything on the new chair and vice chair?
I have a question
Sure.
for council. So according to the sunshine law, 2 people can get together and talk about things. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I'll be talking to you.
Yeah, so you guys can, 2 board members can talk about board business, but you just cannot make
Right.
any agreement to vote or not to vote a certain way. So at this time, let's take just a quick 3-minute break, and then we'll hand it over to David to chair the rest of the meeting. So let's take a quick break, and we'll be back in 3 minutes.
If you can make it there in 3 minutes.
Real, it was like, oh.
Yeah, mistake.
I did.
This is
So let's see. Okay, or do you want to do this right now? I think you can do the minutes first.
Oh, no, that's right. Sorry.
You must be relieved.
Yeah. Right.
Time, does this mean you're gonna be in a holdover?
I am a holder. Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna proceed with approval of the last meeting's minutes. Does anyone like to make a motion to approve the minutes of December 13th, 2023?
So
I
moved.
make a motion. Okay, go.
Okay, Mahalani made the motion a second.
Second.
Okay, the minutes have been approved. Oh, any discussion? Yes, thank you. Any discussion on the minutes as
Also
approved?
question.
That means call for a vote. Say on favor.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Okay. So, so if there's any community members who have signed up to provide public testimony on any of the agenda items, would speak now or at the time when the agenda item comes up. Or if there's anyone who'd just like to speak at this time on something that's not on the agenda,
Oh, no.
No.
Let's do that on the agenda.
only the agenda at this time, okay.
Oh, I'm ready to tell some stories.
Well, bear with me here.
Yeah.
And is there anybody on Zoom that was want to talk about one of the agenda items? Hearing no one, we'll move on. Okay, so my understanding is we have some permitted interaction groups that might possibly have a report. The YPO Wahipana. Is there any report on that or?
You know, I'd like to just say, first of all, having been chair recently, I'm not sure that these were all created, the three groups that are mentioned here were created as standing committees. And I don't think they were ever actually transferred to status of permitted interaction group. So I don't think that we have any permitted interaction groups here.
Okay, so
Maybe if you're asking if any of the standing committees have
Or any of
have any reports, maybe that's what you mean.
right, so I guess if any of the standing committees have a report, and are all three of these standing committees still in functioning as committees?
Correct.
Yeah, I'm not sure as far as the committee, but I did attend the latest meeting with Whitefield Valley and Focus, what's the committee called?
Steering committee,
Steering committee.
long-term steering.
So that was back in November. In fact, we had a meeting, so I'll have Heather and Maya, add if anything's missing. But
Okay,
basically, the meeting wasn't real well attended, but it was a really good discussion in terms of moving forward and with the issue of the road, road access down to YPO and the urgency. A lot of that came out in discussion in terms of the real need for the Waipana status and what that means, and then also the process, which of late has been a weekend session with the Youth Kanaka Ole Foundation. And it was decided that was a really powerful effort. And so I think there was a, general agreement to move forward, and the county is willing to fund a second effort to dive a little deeper and get a little bit more depth in terms of moving forward with what that means for the Waipana status and the management of the valley from a community standpoint. And so, and the other kind of thing that came up, and Heather can kind of mention that, is the effort that the county council or Heather is putting forth to the state that would actually enable more controls and restriction over a county road, which is what the Whitefield Valley Access is. And so I'll let Heather speak to that, but that's basically as I understand it. So.
Yeah, just to reiterate, the process with EKF that we went through entailed reviewing some of the text and the chants and Alelo around YPO and using that to establish Kapu and Kanawai for the area. And the reason for initiating that process first was we wanted to have a historical context for any proposals that we put forward that were rooted in traditional knowledge and traditional uses. And so we had a really productive first session, but the group felt like they wanted to do a little bit more, dive into some more texts and things like that. And I did get assurances, like Brad said, from R&D that they would continue to support another effort of that kind. We wanted to expand it too, so that more people could participate. And then on the second note, you know, we are a year into a 3-year project to improve the road. 2 years goes by very quickly, and we want to make sure that we have something in place before the road reopens so that it's not just a free-for-all again. And so we have a couple of different things. The biggest challenge, as Brad mentioned, is that it's a county road, it's a public road. And so right now, through the state, we have authority with the public road to open it and close it, but no authority to manage it or to say limit the number of people per day that could go down or something like that. So we've put forth a bill that will be introduced at the state legislature this session that would give the counties the authority to do that for these particularly unsafe roads or roads that are the sole point of access to sensitive areas that are, you know, culturally and naturally sensitive. And so when that, I was reminded that I hadn't actually shared the bill with this committee, so I'll make sure to share that bill with the committee so that you have that. But that'll be introduced in the next session. And then while that is happening, we'll be working on some other efforts, such as setting up a permitting process that would, you know, be the mechanism for regulating the number of folks per day. And also looking at how we can educate people prior to going down, either, you know, with a visitor center or providing a shuttle service where they could be talked to by a guide. Mahealani, you want to add anything to that about our discussion?
No, not really. As long as the county continues to listen to the community, which I mean, the community of people that live and through the valley, instead of just general community, I think it'll be best. It's a win-win-win for everybody. But the biggest win would be for white people. And that's where a lot of the residents, farmers, and people who are of the community, that's where their heart is, especially our kupuna who are generationally been farmers, or you know, because we know our kings and queens, our chiefs and chiefesses were really loving people, and they love to spread their aloha, so they have tiki all over, which I'm sure everyone can say that they're related to Liloa. But these are the people who actually mala mahaloa and take that as their kuleana and help feed and sustain poi and the poi processing companies and feeding people of Hawaii, you know. So yes, as long as the county continues to do that, and Heather and I have a love-hate relationship when it comes to this, but we definitely love more than we hate. So mahalo.
Heather, when this whole thing got started, there was some question about the core groups adding access to the Waipio Valley.
Mhm.
And I think the other thing is that the beaches there are considered state beaches, aren't they?
They're public
No.
beaches.
They're public
The-
beaches.
The public,
Yeah.
the beach, the shoreline is public.
Yeah. That's right, it has to be a public shoreline.
Yeah.
So how are they gonna resolve that? That's what I'm,
Yeah, that, I mean, that's part of the issue, and we are having some issues with, the tour companies are actually licensed through the Public Utilities Commission. And so we have some issues with some of the tour companies right now, and it's really, we're, and I needed to call you about this, Mihail, like, we're working with the Public Utilities Commission to do their job to enforce the proper behavior by the tour companies when they're down there. And one of the key things is that per their permits through the PUC, they have to go point to point. They cannot go all over the place, and that's part of the problem that we're seeing.
Yeah.
But we don't have the authority to enforce that at the county. We need the PUC to do it. So we've been making some headway with them to get them to pay a little bit more attention to that.
Okay, is that all we have on? Okay, and then there, I also have here housing committee,
I'm on that committee, no report.
no report, okay. And also Lehua Street Committee. Is there anything going on there or anybody?
I believe that's Richard.
Richard?
well,
It's part of the agenda, so maybe it's late for them.
I mean, it's part of the agenda.
Oh, yeah, okay, so
okay.
sorry, we should, yeah, more public comments, I guess. Okay, so doesn't sound like any of these are being resolved or the.
Well, if they were permitted interaction groups, they're resolved.
Yeah,
Just declare
so
them resolved, but
Just a standing committee.
yeah, we can figure that out.
Okay, all right. Okay. Now we're gonna move on to the general plan comments discussion. I think the thing here is gonna be, how do we address this? It's a lot of information and I think already we have, what's about over 100 comments? Is that right, Tom?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have the opportunity to add more comments by January, what is that? 19th, next Friday. So we could take these. I guess the thing you have to do is decide how we're gonna address these, the ones that we have. There's things that I've thought of, or going through them one by one, which could be a very tedious, long process. There could be, we could just submit all the comments just as comments.
Sorry, you gotta ask. what's it called, the test.
Oh, that's the point to do this.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, gotcha. So is there any public comments on the general plan discussion? So everyone knows we're giving comments to the county on their new general plan relating to land use and issues. So,
How much thought and process was put into having the community be part of it?
Can I ask, Vice Mayor to come on close to the mic so that everybody else.
Supposed to be on my phone.
Thank you.
and
State your name. for the
approximately
record.
3
Okay,
minutes.
Sit on the chair.
Yeah, right here is fine.
Yeah.
You guys messed up, you guys gave him the chair.
No, like this general plan of 2045. How much of the community even know about, like, is there a better process to help the community understand that there's plans being decided on without their input? I mean, that's all they really want, instead of seeing things happen without even knowing that it's approved. That's something that I would like to know, because if there's some kind of clouded definition or words that we now no longer have the right definitions or the right just like affordable, right? affordable in what way? Define affordable, right? Because now the affordable is just a word they use to just streamline the building process.
Can I respond to that? The term affordable is actually decided by the county. And when it, and like, for example, there's 20 new homes going up on Lehua Street. And the developer has agreed that he will sell those lots below market value. Now, and this question came up before in another CDP meeting with the public. And people are saying, well, what's below market value? That'll be determined at the time when the lots go up for sale.
So like, isn't it more simple to just get the dictionary definition of affordability?
You know, the county decides what is
So the
affordable.
county is Webster. Just joking now.
Now, certainly the residents could take issue with what's affordable, but I think that's pretty well established because the developer is developing the lot based on that action. And by the way, this particular developer is actually got two subdivisions. 20 lots will go at below market price, and the other 20 lots will be sold at market.
So I think about that and I go, 2045. Imagine how much the market prices are gonna be then. All right, if we can lock that market price into the prices we got now, it's still high. But it's gonna be unaffordable, right? So we need to kind of have the county go, hey. Before our communities and our citizens get upset of being trickeried. Let's, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, it's just a, I just that was just a
I
concern.
don't think it's a matter of trickery, it's letting the market, decide. Because it's my impression, when the county says, hey, what would these lots be sold for if they were sold at market rate?
Right,
And then the county says, well, you're gonna sell them below market. You've agreed to do
it
that.
could be $1 million in 2045, right?
I
But I
think
think
that,
I just seen like, there's so many community associations that is out there. Can we just contact these associations and have them present? Because they're the voices of the communities.
exactly. I think what you're saying is less about what is affordable. I think what you're saying is that we haven't had enough ability of the community to interact with this very important general plan. And I would agree with that. I just wonder how that can actually take place. We're obviously reaching some people here tonight that we haven't, that really are not intimately familiar with what's going on with the new general plan. And I think we have to do everything we can to reach more of the community than we have reached so far. And
Help you guys outreach that.
Yeah.
That's something that I think is important. I will take time out of my day to help you guys make these phone calls. All right?
yeah,
I'll be more than happy to do that, just so that you guys don't fall into pointing fingers at anything.
well, thank you for that comment.
Just want to translate a little bit. It seems like having community involvement in a process and a plan where, you're saying that it's going to be less than market value. If it's $1 million value on that property, does 999,999 qualify as affordable? There's a disconnect there. You have people who are already getting priced out at current rates. So when they start to build 5 years from now, when it actually opens, the community that's deciding that, even when you go to the HOAs, they're no longer a part of that. They've already been priced out. So now if you're using comparables as the flag of what is affordable and what is not affordable, the people who can afford that are the people deciding whether it's affordable housing, when the community has already been priced out. I just wanted to add that little bit of context just to make it clear as to the frustrations that are coming from the community.
what defines affordable? Is that inked out as far as, is it 10%, 20% below market rate? Has that been ironed out? And if not, how do we start to put in motion those processes to get that type of stuff? Just so that the community knows it's gonna be 20%, stuff like that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your name, so we have a document.
Yeah, my name is Dante Ophelia. Thank you.
Can I make a point of, to clarify? So, under the current affordable housing code, which is chapter 11, the affordable rate is actually, it's set by HUD. So the Federal Housing Agency looks at the incomes in the area and then it uses that to determine what affordable is. What's challenging in our county is it's looking at the whole county. And so, you particularly looking at, like the Kohala area, right? That those incomes are really inflated and, may not be a broad representation. One of the things that Council Member Inaba and this is to the point of like, what is affordable versus what is attainable, right? And so one of the things that he and I have been looking at with a revision to chapter 11 is instead of using the HUD calculation to determine affordable, look at, okay, what is the income? What is the cost of living? What are the costs of HOA fees, of insurance, because that's becoming a big thing in Puna. And then, the general understanding is 30% should be what you pay on housing. So if we know what all those other costs are, then we can set that price based on that. And that we define as attainable housing rather than just.
I think that's what he's getting at.
Yeah.
Definition. but
Yeah.
That's an important distinction.
It is, and right now, when we talk about affordable, we're talking about the HUD definition.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, go
Yeah, I
ahead.
just have a question on that too. When the developer makes a proposal, he has to make a presentation to the community. Can there be a negotiation at that time as to what is the definition of affordable, or does it have to be set somewhere else? So in other words, each community, could they help set that in a negotiation with the developer?
If I may respond, Chair.
Yes.
Yeah, so when those processes happen, like the public hearings, the planning commission and whatnot, they're right now, under the current code, you could specify what percentage would be within what affordable rate. So there are different, within affordable, there's like 30% area median income and below, and 60% area median income and below. And so you have to have a certain percentage of housing units in each of those categories. What we can negotiate with the public can negotiate with the developers is expanding those percentages for those different areas, so that we often do that. One of the things that is also important in this discussion is the term of affordability. So I think that kind of ties to what you're talking about, which is right now in the code, it only has to be kept at that affordable rate for 10 years. We've recently, because these come through public hearings in the council, we've required the developers to do it for longer, for 50 years, for 60 years, because 10 years isn't really that long, and the market is the market. So one of the other revisions we're looking at chapter 11 is making the term of affordability always much longer.
And was the 50% of what's being committed to the developer, is that sort of the incentive to build more like affordable housing, is to let them sell half of that, half of what they build as a profit?
Yeah, that's, yeah.
Also, they'll get in on the back end.
I
They can't
No,
afford the
no, the
property taxes.
homeowners would, so
So the
the,
banks will get it back anyway, because they won't be able to afford it because of the property taxes.
not necessarily, because the taxes are tied to the valuations and.
So you
when-
just said
when
half
you-
the homes will be sold to, probably foreigners that will build.
No, actually, there is a requirement that we just passed.
Okay.
That, that for going forward, anything that is, maintained by the county has to be sold. There's a preference for local residents or people that work within the area.
What about for Kanako?
We can't do that. That would be
Raises.
That would
So
be
what-
violation of the Constitution, but the best that we can do, the best that we can do is give a preference for local residents,
Okay, what about LCAs then?
LCAs.
Yeah, land commission awardees.
Oh, that would be,
Uh,
that's controlled under the Hawaiians.
And just a question,
Yeah.
is the property tax setting valuation of the home based on comparable or 30% below market?
So the value of the home is a formula that's based on a sales price, so it would, the sales price, but also comparable, so it's both. But the key thing to know about property taxes is when it's a homeowners, you've got a 3% cap. So if you've got the homeowner's tax rate, it can only go up 3% a year, regardless of what happens with the other properties in the market.
So you
But
have.
Once you get in.
once you get in,
Gotta get there.
yeah,
So you have something that as affordable
Yeah.
for residents.
there's a preference for residents.
So how come there can't be a preference for Hāmākua?
Because you would be in violation of the Fair Housing Act.
What would that be?
Is that, what section is that? The Fair Housing Act?
The Fair Housing Act is the federal act that prevents discrimination against protected classes.
I'm talking about Congress,
Yes.
the ones that is the illegal occupation. I find, a big difference that, because they're on the lands. I don't know how in any possible way that it can get its constitution. That's not true. It's not. Period. We got the Hāmākua, and that's the law that you guys are revising. Hāmākua is the first laws in the law, the laws of the land. The statute is not a law. It's an administrative rule that only you folks have to follow, not the community members.
That's true.
Yeah,
That I am obligated, when I
So,
elected
discrimination is what you
to
have.
uphold the Constitution, so that's what I've got to do. The
Well, no, it's
Constitution.
discrimination, because why? You guys use Native Hawaiian, and Native Hawaiian is not
No,
Hawaiians,
sovereignty.
it's anybody with a Native address in Hawaii. So plotting of titles, that's what I'm talking about, right? Why is it that the
Right.
Hawaiian people that is struggling the most, right? They're not the ones, they're the ones with the blood, they cannot get on their land. All the leases are, the Japanese businessmen and women, and they the only ones hold multiple leases without blood, and they make millions. Why is it, why doesn't?
So could I interrupt for just a minute? I mean, I understand your concerns, but it really is beyond the scope of our committee. So I mean,
No, it's a community member.
Yes. yeah, but
They make our community.
And you might just be planting some seeds for.
Yeah,
you guys to
yeah.
like work on.
When you hear a spirit of a law, that comes from these people I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Not the people that sit in office. Right, so we just wanna, we don't wanna voices over, when our presence is something, that's all we ask for.
yeah, and we're listening.
What we're talking about here is affordability.
Exactly.
And I agree with that. And it's my hope that when these lots come up for sale, that we will be able to deal with the federal housing authority. So that, because people who may not qualify for a mortgage can get one through HUD. And I'm here to tell you, I'm a product of that. My parents could not afford to buy a home. And the developer came to them and said, we can arrange for you because you can't qualify. We'll arrange for you to get a loan through HUD. And my parents, for the first time in their life, owned a home. And I want to see that happen here.
Okay, so through HUD, and through HUD, it opens it up for, on a national level. So because your parents could afford one. His parents could.
I don't
So
think.
I think we're gonna have to move on. We've got to go through the general plan. So, appreciate all your comments.
I would like Heather perhaps to explain, perhaps at our next meeting, because I think we are needing or running up against a time barrier here. Explain what the preferences for persons living and working in the area, what that preference actually looks like, and whether that preference is open to challenge on legal bases, since it's just a recent development apparently.
Yeah, I'd be happy to go into it. In fact, I think based on some of the other questions, a broader discussion about the affordable housing code would be appropriate. You know, the other question was brought up about like what percentage has to be affordable, and that's all something we're looking at right now. And so it'd be appropriate, I think, to have that discussion at this committee so that I can take that feedback as we're working on the amendments.
Thank you.
Okay, oh,
David,
yes.
real quick, another thing I heard, the brother with the red had mentioned, how we can get the general plan more broadly viewed by more community members. And that's something that I totally feel, I agree with him on. And so is the January 19th deadline, like, that's it that we have to give them? Or I mean, because it's a 200-page document,
Right.
you know, and I know we had something to go over it. However, because it's coming to light that more communities, from what Brother was saying, that he feels that more communities should be a part of this and not just, you know, I like that idea, other than it just being on the six of our shoulders to go through it. I did share it with my contacts. So, but nobody came back with anything. I directed them straight to the website. So I don't know if we can piecemeal it and like so when is our deadline first? Because if we can piecemeal it, I'd like to go. Oh, okay. Thank you, Bethany. She's saying that it's open till March 1st.
And the earlier deadline was just if we were gonna do something internally within the committee, so we could have it ready for the next meeting.
Okay.
I just also like to share, if you don't mind, say that, for the committee, yes, they're trying to put something together on a formal letterhead. But the March 1st deadline is for all, and to keep in mind that whether it's a county board or commission or in general public individual submitting comments, they will all be weighted the same. This is just a goal of the action committee to kind of come together and put their comments together in one spot and submit it directly to the director. But that does not mean that it will have any comments given by an individual member of the public would have any less weight. So you can still, if you find more comments or anything like that before that March 1st deadline that you'd like to submit, please don't worry that it has to come to them. You still have other venues.
Mario, so like all these members in the public, they can go and review the general plan. And everybody has until March 1st to submit those comments to the planning department. And all those comments will be considered equally, whether it comes from this committee or from any of you in the public, you know, about anything in the general plan. So.
And you can make the comments right on the website as you're reading it. So it's very easy.
If there are any problems using the website, feel free to reach out to the general plan team, but also comments are being accepted via email. To their email, GP, I believe, @hawaiicounty.gov. So there's multiple pathways for getting.
Are you guys still doing presentations to community groups if they are asking for them to come in or?
Is the team still doing the roadshow presentations? I believe they kind of were wrapping that up. But reach out and see what would be possible. Yeah.
I expressed this to Heather, that the county did a general plan in Kona. They did one in Waimea, they did one in Hilo, and I think they did one in Puna. And I said to Heather, how come they don't have one in Hāmākua? And so maybe we need to get the county to come up to Hāmākua and do a review of the general plan.
Another option is that a lot of these meetings were recorded and they are on the YouTube to hear.
Yeah,
back
but
any-
it's not saying that, look, those were done in person, people could ask questions. And I have to tell you, the general plan's 170 pages long. And trying to read through it is nuts.
Okay, so I think one thing from listening to what you're saying about the weight of the responses, it may help us in trying to get through the document is that we already have 110 comments. We're expecting more within the next week and a half from the committee. And maybe the easiest route and most reasonable route to even get it done is just to submit all of our comments to the county if they aren't weighted any differently than everybody else. So we don't have to go through them and say, well, I like this one, I don't like this one. I mean, that's a suggestion.
Go through the planning commission.
That
Yes,
is-
it will.
Yes, the general plan
Yes.
will be heard at the planning commission, and that is another opportunity for testimony and public comment.
And then
Yeah,
council.
good.
And so after that, then county council, there are multiple, this is just the layers. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, of course, I wrote quite a few comments on this plan and, as did other members of the committee. So I personally would like that we would just take these 110 comments and put them on county letterhead and make it an official document. However, a good deal of my initial comments were that items in this general plan should not be contentious items, that this is a document that is going to be enforced. And the question of enforce, what does that mean? It is a roadmap in a sense. It's a direction of where the county would like to go, but it's going to be for over 20 years. And I make comments that, well, should an administration, you know, now that has a couple of years left in it, you know, or more, be making a roadmap for over 20 years. And particularly if that roadmap has contentious items in it. And, but in my comments, I also made contentious comments, you know, and consequently, you know, and quite a few actually. I don't think everyone in this room would feel like what I've written is appropriate either, you know. Or there would be a good deal of discussion about some of the things that I've written here. And so I doubt that it is the wise choice to put all of that on county letterhead, you know, just to say, well, let's take these 110 comments and that's what our committee will commit ourselves to. I would like that if we would do it, but I think in a sense it would be inappropriate. But on the other hand, it could take us a couple of hours to get through the first 10 comments.
And some of our own individual comments are gonna, if we go through them, if we get a chance to do that and have the time, some of them would be not in the document that we send because we would have said we don't like that particular. So at least your documents would get through the other way. I mean,
It's important to condense some of the ideas in the comments too, so that there's no relying online. You have 100 comments, I'm sure you're gonna have repeat sentences stated in those comments. It'd be good to give a gauge, okay, well, 15 comments are talking about this, 10 are talking about this, just so that it's on record that this is a summary of the comments. I don't know who would be in charge, I don't even know who would be trust to be a part of that, to administer that process, but it'd be helpful if those core ideas in the comments were listed on record on letterhead. Doesn't have to be all 110, but I'm sure there will be some repeat sentences, like if we and say we commented, we find some similarities in the comments. It'd be good to condense them down into ideas that you put forth and then planning to like, these have weight, this idea, this sentiment has weight, just to consider.
So what I'd like to hear is the other members and what their ideas on how we should proceed with going through these ideas that we put down. Anybody?
My notion about the general plan is it contains too much detail. And it does not summarize very well what's in this 170-page document.
Well, Richard, what I'm talking about, I'm really talking about our process. How do we get,
No, I mean, our process.
yes, our process. How do we get through what are we gonna do with these comments that we're acquiring, and how are we gonna get through them and present them to the county in a timely manner that we can work with?
So David, if I may make a suggestion, and given that the planning department has stated that these comments would be weighted at the same level as individual comments being made. But to give it that sort of official feel of as having come from the committee, you could submit the comments with a cover letter saying that these comments are a compilation of comments collected by the body and delivered, making it clear that there wasn't consensus around all of these, but that it's a compilation of what you've collected as a body.
Yeah.
And given your time constraints, it might be easier to go that route than to try to get consensus around the comments, each comment.
Yeah.
That would be my suggestion.
Brad, do you have any thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think that's fine, because otherwise, I think the process of going through item by item, if anybody, I think, just so that we can have it, if anybody wants to summarize, or Con, if you want to summarize some of the key issues that you have, just so it's for the on the record, I think that'd be helpful. I had a lot of specifics about, the content, and but I think you had some really, some interesting points in terms of just the process as well as
Mahia, Lonnie, do you have any thoughts on the process?
Yeah, I went through it once. I don't want to go through it again in
I'm with you. Richard? Is that right, Richard? Yes. Yes.
For me,
Yes.
I think the best way, like Heather suggested, treat as individual comments, but I think the point is there is a section where they're disagreeing among members, but they should try to separate themselves. What's within the detail. Because putting this as a summary home, that's quite an effort.
Yeah.
Like Brad and I looked at the details, the specifics of this letter, this word, as opposed to the general perceptions like that. It's challenging to understand that.
Another option might be that we do exactly what was mentioned here, and but then at the same time form a permitted interaction group to look to see if there is a compilation or a distillation of these individual comments, because we're identifying them to the planning department as individual comments in Heather's design. But if we would form that permitted interaction group, they could look at it to see, would it be possible to make a document that represents the kind of amalgamation of from the individuals into the committee itself.
Is that something that could be done at the
Yeah, 2 more months.
Well, on the other hand, I think it's been specified that by Bethany last time, that we actually are allowed to, as a committee, address the planning commission when it goes in final form to the planning commission. We're allowed to address that document. And same thing with the county council, that as it goes to county council for ratification, we can, as a committee, address it in that situation. And consequently, I think this deadline of March 1st, even though it's been a great process to get us moving on this, I think that it may be that we don't need to feel too uncomfortable about submitting something even after the deadline.
Right, well, that's, I mean, that sounds like a reasonable idea that we go ahead and submit all by, we can have by the next, what did we say the date for the, I think the
The 19th.
9th, yes, 19th of January. Get any other comments the committee wants, individual comments by January 19th, submit those as just a list of individuals, and then we could talk further about doing a more of a collaborative thing when it comes before the planning commission. That sounds like a, what does everyone think about that?
I'd be for that.
Yeah.
One other comment. I hope everyone in that is attending as public has left their email, because I would like to mail the comments that we have made to you. So you can look at what we're talking about here. I'm sure. Yeah, good.
Meiju, are you mind? to
Yes, I
comment?
do. Well, my point is that this is the action committee of the Hāmākua development plan. It's not the commission, it's not the general plan. The general plan is written by the planning department. And I think our worry has always been that the general plan is not going to correspond to our own Hāmākua development plan, which we spent many years developing. So I guess I would like to have this action committee, if you could, summarize what's in the general plan now that does not correspond to the Hāmākua development plan. And I don't know if that's what you guys have commented on, but it would be really helpful to me to know what is the difference here, because I don't want to get stuck on the general plan without defending the Hāmākua plan.
Right, and that's, I think that's one of the problems. We don't even have information that tells us what the difference is between the existing plan and what their, I mean, the previous plan and what the existing.
Yeah,
plan
well,
is
it's a
gonna
matter
be,
of
so.
reading both, unfortunately, and trying to figure out if
Yeah.
it corresponds.
And I think we talked at one point about the planning department would try to remedy that for the next time around, that they would keep track of changes. Oh, Rob,
I'd like to address your comment. When I read the general plan, it says coral reef. If you look at Hāmākua, we don't have coral reef. It's that,
If you could speak a little bit louder for the microphone.
it's the bias by the visitor industry that wants to put coral reef up front. But the coral reef only serves a small component of Hawaii's industry. This one, Hāmākua is really about reef, so I wanted to take the word coral out, this way specific to this area. And so, but again, this is unfortunately the county's bias of the understanding that there's life beyond the corner side. The coral thing is a corner thing. Here, you don't have coral, find your coral reef, I haven't shown you where coral reef is. If you do that, then you're gonna just because the whole coastline, no coral reef, so therefore we can do all the mud we want to do. So we gotta really be specific about definition, and I think it's unfortunate that people use the general terms of understanding inputs. I'm glad, and I put it as a comment on this. Okay. The other comment I made is the county does not speak to the state agencies. There's always this, where do we draw the line? Who's responsible? Cliffside. Oh, they don't. The state doesn't give it anything to the landslide. But the county is responsible to the top of the high side. I see Ocala, people making homes, just throwing Ocala over the side. I call, nobody responds, so I'm sure this committee we develop will have the ability and the ability to address this issue, because Hāmākua habitat is so unique. It's very narrow beach, there's not much time to spare. If we lose that, we're going to be faced with loss of beach because of the rising water. But that's really the issue. That's kind of where, how do I address this issue? So I made it one time about coral reef, but if you could, so I could do a little wider perspective about how we should look at this habitat. And that's one thing I can comment on, but other things, I'm not a fan, so I don't understand most of the stuff like that. So, but that's where I want us
basically put that effort from us, and if you want, I could write up a little bit more.
Yeah, well,
Maybe they want to do specifics about words and letters and position and things like that, but
And we certainly want that perspective, so. Did you have something, Brad?
Yeah, one comment, in the stuff that I sent in, I did not include because I was waiting to coordinate with the planning department on a comment on the land use pattern map. And in particular, just so I could put it out, in the community, is that, you know, after our last meeting where we had planning, you know, we had a good discussion and we talked about some of the, in particular is the Hohonua site, which was expanded, to, you know, industrial. And after that discussion we had at the last meeting, my sense was, because the general plan is a guiding document for the future, it doesn't make sense to put industrial where industrial was just because it was a sugarcane mill. And so for future guidance, my comment was to look at those, not just that particular site, but even Old Colin, all of those in Hainan, you know, all of those industrial sites which were once sugar mills right there on the water. That is not appropriate to move forward because it's a changing time, and we don't want to, you know, contaminate our waters. And a lot of those sites are actually, if they are for the zoning, which is general industrial, it's just not appropriate to be in those sensitive environmental areas, let alone being right next to communities, because the housing is still there. I mean, the camps and the housing is still there.
Right.
And so to me, I just want to put that out because I did add that as a comment to the general plan zoning plan.
Brad, is that comment in the list that we compiled?
It's not in a list because it was.
But you're going to now
Yeah.
add it, okay? I also have oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
So I just wanted to add to your comment. Thank you for your comment. My name is Jared Adair Garcia. And I've been the president for Makahana Fishing Association. And I'm still the president, formerly known as Makahana Fishing Association. And it's now known as Makahana Maka'aina now. I'm still the president. I was responsible for taking care of that shoreline, Hilo side of the mill, and in the gated community. Me and my organization did a hell of a job keeping it clean, keeping it healthy, safe for the community. But we recently just got kicked out. And I have a vice president that is constantly trying to steal this association from us, but we move forward. We pulled out of Pepekel. We're doing other projects with other organizations. And I would love to take part in this part of it. Why? Because right now, as we speak, the punk has already approved to purchase the property on the Hilo side of the mill from Hank Correa. Know that across of that property that is being purchased, it's the old ash pile. I mean, you look in that drainage system, you'll see this grease, and this is the ash pile that had, asbestos, arsenic, all these things. It's a contaminated site, and our taxpayers are going to be now trickered into paying Hank Correa top dollar for contaminated land, or more so, our public access that he put a gate up on and locked it. They're having hidden meetings. Right? I mean, Heather came down there, she helped us clean it one time. Very thankful for that. She put her hands in the dirt. She did. She was sweating and, but we all were. But the thing is, the idea is that access alongside the fence there along Ho'onua on the Hilo side, it's in charter. It's a law that Hank's been breaking for the last 4 to 5 years of putting a gate up, putting a fence, locking it up. It's a law that it had gone through county council in 2003 for a vehicular access to the front. And our fishermen have been denied access. Recently, they opened it to just cover something, but are now hearing that they want to do a SMA permit to allow Hank Correa to keep it locked for 2 more years. Although I'm not out here, I'm still paying attention to everything that's going on. And the concern is if it's these things such as urban development, we never had urban zoning in Hāmākua. Ever. We now do. I don't even know if you guys know about it, but it's something you folks should look into. It's a rural community. It's never should be urban. My guess is it's for development inside that gated community as when they come up, but I'll testify on the next item when you guys get there for Hāmākua. It's gonna be a connected thing for me.
We are looking for committee members.
Okay. Jared, is that something you'd like on the agenda for an upcoming meeting?
Sure. we'll
Yeah.
love that.
Well,
You
we'll
know,
certainly consider
I'll
that.
get all my, I'll have all my members show up. I'm looking at about 100 people.
That would be great.
Well, don't run away too fast.
Sure. There it is.
I have one addition to that list that I would like to mention. The list of 110 comments. One suggestion that will be added as proposal, which is not included in the below commentary, would be all submissions for subdivision or zoning changes of properties which are received by the planning department will have a summary or copy of the submission presented to the chair of the District Community Development Plan Action Committee in which that property lies for consideration of placement on the agenda of a subsequent committee meeting. This follows from the County Code 16-6 designation of the duties and responsibilities of the Action Committee as receive briefings as requested from the planning department on pending and approved permit applications involving property located within the planning area and on other issues related to the CDP. So that's just 111 now.
Right. So, could we get a motion to suggest that we, submit all the comments that we have? And then we're going to get, hopefully, from the rest of from the committee, myself included, following up here in about a week and a half, and then submit those. And then there was something else to go with that, I forgot.
The cover letter.
The cover
explaining
letter, yes.
Compilation.
I mean,
I make that motion.
okay, do I hear a second
I second.
discussion?
And,
Mahalani, discussion?
and will that be followed by an effort to create a permitted interaction group to look at a compilation of comments that we feel we can submit?
Can we do one first and then?
Yeah.
Okay,
You would, if I may, just put it on the agenda next time, because you couldn't do it today, because you have to have something that specifies what the permitted interactions group would cover, what their responsibilities are, and what their product would be. That's dictated by chapter
Yeah.
92 HRS. So at this point, it would just be a recommendation for that to be added to the agenda to formulate the permitted action group, and you would have to work out what their responsibilities would be. I think it's appropriate to have that work to prepare comments for the planning commission, because in that scenario, it's a little bit different in terms of the weight that a body, a submission generated by a body might have in
Right.
that form.
we could talk about that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Chair, can I ask for a clarification? The motion is to have these compilation of comments on the letterhead, but then also giving time until January 19th for additional comments from the.
And those would all be put together to be put in
And
before
all of
March
them will be put
1st.
together at the March meeting. Is that what we're saying?
Yes,
No,
No,
I think
February,
they're gonna- I think
February.
they're gonna submit them all.
yeah.
As
That's February.
together right now to the general plan input process, and then they'll work on a more formal statement
yeah.
that is an
Okay, so
amalgamation.
any comments that haven't made it on this current with communication 2024-01. Any additional comments will be you can individually input them for whatever they are into the conveyor site, or however you want to get them to the GP team. And then they will also be used as, included in your guys' conversations, once the pig is created. Is that my understanding?
I thought that you guys were saying that the comments that you guys have right now, the 110 or so, those would be compiled with a letterhead explaining that this is the compiled comments of the committee, and that you guys also wanted to submit additional comments.
I
to be
thought
added to
I thought we could wait because we have until March 1st to compile them all together and then submit it.
Right, so but you guys were voting right now to kind of accept that process with the understanding that there would be additional comments to be added to that compilation? Was that
Yes.
And so we're talking about a second meeting in February.
right? Where they would talk about those comments and add them to the compilation and then submit them before the March 1st
Right.
deadline? Was that what you
Yes.
guys were thinking?
That was what I was suggesting, yeah.
Was that your motion, Tom?
Well, I actually had felt that it would not be possible to actually create a permitted interaction group that would clarify what the committee felt as a group and what the committee would actually endorse as their statement.
Mhm.
I don't think what we're creating here by this first motion is actually a endorsement of this. I think of this complete set. I think we're just saying this is what the members of the committee, and we haven't actually taken a vote on that this set of statements represents our feeling as a committee.
Well, should we have two separate motions and a
Yeah.
motion for combining the two?
But I don't think that the deadline should apply to that second motion.
Right, because that can be,
Right.
that can be done to the planning commission.
Yeah,
Yeah,
planning
so,
commission and
All right.
just. Right.
well, when they take it up, I think that was what we mentioned.
I think I also got the sense that the March 1st deadline was the point at which they will cease using the conveyor mechanism. And but I also feel like it's not the case that the planning department's not going to listen to anyone who makes comments after that March 1st deadline, that our comments won't count. I think they will. If they see a comment they think is important, it will be registered and they'll, add into whatever document they feel is appropriate for making for their final general plan.
So what is the? Yes,
We have Bethany Morrison reading.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Bethany.
Hi, committee. Sorry, I just wanted to sort of clarify what our process is moving forward so that we're clear. Yes, on March 1st, the Conveo site will no longer be accepting comments. And, we're working diligently to be sure that we can move this thing forward, incorporating the comments that have been received. And so, yes, we will not have a final draft on March 2nd. However, the farther down the road we get, it's going to be harder for us to incorporate comments that are received after March 1st. If that's helpful.
Thank you.
so there is somewhat of a deadline there.
Yeah.
So I think it's appropriate that we could just have limit the motion to compiling all of our suggestions that come in, that we have now and then come in the next week and a half. And we submit those to the county for March 1st. And then we could talk about doing something with a pig or whatever the process is to address maybe a more rounded picture of what we think. And that could go to the planning commission when they take up the process at their level or whenever.
Well, it
Is
should
that
be
correct?
noted, Bethany reminded me that the draft that the planning commission will most likely be dealing with, will have incorporated some of these comments. So when you think
Yeah.
about setting up the pig, you'd want to think about setting it up with probably that draft rather than
Right.
the draft that's available.
Yep.
Yeah. So, we need to correct our motion then. A motion to deliver the comments to the county that received by March 1st as a committee
That the compilation.
compilation, yes. So, does anyone wanna create a motion to that effect?
I'll make the motion that we submit them by March 1.
Do I hear a second?
I second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
That this compilation, these 110 comments plus any
Yeah.
other comments that come in before,
Correct.
before January 19th will be compiled
Correct.
into a document that we will send as the compilation of Hāmākua Community Development Plan members' comments on the general plan.
Well said. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes,
And to clarify, those additional comments would be sent to the chair.
Okay,
He would send it to planning. And we would put it all together on the letterhead. On the
Okay.
Hāmākua CDP Action Committee letterhead. As a letter to the director.
and the chair will write the letter explaining that this is a compilation and it has not been voted on in its individuality as our
Absolutely.
completed statement.
The letter
something
would be
like that.
signed.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sure.
any further discussion?
Do you have a second on the motion?
We did, yeah, I think,
Just checking.
yeah, Richard,
Call for a vote.
call for a vote.
Say all those in favor.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Yes, okay, so the motion is passed. Okay, what time is it? It's quarter after, so we're trying to keep our meetings to 2 hours now, so we're just checking the time.
Sure, if I can make a recommendation, considering we have less than 15 minutes left in the meeting.
Right.
We should defer all the other items.
So let's see, we'll defer the status of the Hāmākua wildfire plan unless someone has, someone has comments on these that they were planning.
We didn't suggest,
Pardon?
but except for.
Yeah.
For us.
I
Um,
would just say, we were waiting for that plan. I don't believe it's been released
Yeah.
yet.
Right, it's not available.
Yeah.
And we'll defer the emergency routes discussion. And is there something on the Lahua Street? Is that something of yours or just saw your name?
No, that's Richard's.
Okay,
You can ask for public comment on the agenda.
Yeah,
yeah, I don't think there was any public comment on those 3 agenda items. Right? Yeah,
Public vote.
okay,
Do you have further questions?
Yeah. Just that, on the fire thing, yeah, because in the past, we had talked about, the, the,
Firewise,
no, the Bishop Estate, sorry, Kamehameha Schools and Bishop Estate. Can you ask them specifically? I know that there are trees that are very close to the to the wires. When you come up the first gulch, the first horseshoe, and right next to Kapehu Road, the trees are really close. So I know they said they were working on it, but it would be great if we had some kind of schedule to know when they're gonna take care of that. And I don't know if they.
Marissa's from KS, she's on the call.
Okay, and I don't know if the answer last time, which was, I'm not that clear, which was about the water in the trees. The question really wasn't the fire resistance in each stage of their development. The problem was that right now, the trees are really skinny. They're fully grown, but they're like 40 feet tall and 2 inches wide. And that seems like a different fire hazard possibly, and wanted to get more information and research on it.
thank you.
You're muted, Marissa.
I'm sorry, I didn't get her name.
Meiju.
Neju, okay. Thank you. No, I'm happy to be here again. Actually, next month, KDE will be back at these meetings, but I'm always in the background to support her. So on the first question specifically about trees close to the wires, are you coming out of the first gulch towards Hāmākua? Like, so be on the YPO side, end of the gulch? Okay. I have to go and look at our map specifically and follow up with our land operations tomorrow. You said in the Kapehu area?
Hayhu Road right across from the camp.
Okay. Because I believe we have completed most of our first pass work on most of the major vegetation management areas. Aside from Ahualoa, which is still ongoing, and Councilmember Kimball is in the loop on that one. Actually, I just got an update today. That schedule will likely continue through mid-February for the completion of the Ahualoa trim. So I would just ask Councilmember Kimball if you hear of any concerns from the residents. Our vendor has told us there hasn't been any issues, but that may not always be the case. I know there's a slowdown with traffic and other things, so we're just thankful for everyone's patience on that. So if I follow up on the Kapehu area one, who do I send the response to? Or does the resident want to drop her email, get it in the chat, and I can follow up with you directly?
Send it to me, and the, one of the coordinators of the Kapehu Neighborhood Watch Association.
Okay, I can't see who's talking. Is that also Meiju?
Yeah.
Okay,
I can share email with you.
Yeah.
great.
I'll
Thank you so
make
much.
guys like tomorrow.
Okay, and then on the second question on the trees that are fully grown, 40 feet tall, but 2 inches wide, is there a specific area you're concerned about? Our forester was on vacation when I came last time, and he just came back last week, and he and I haven't synced up yet. But so one, is there a specific area or just in general, trees of a certain width?
I think that's a general pattern. The trees on the interior of the tree plantations tend to grow smaller, so.
Actually, it's our experience, the trees on the exterior grow larger because they have more access to sunlight and the water running off.
I'm saying the thinner ones are on the interior.
Interior, okay, sorry, I may not have heard you well. And then as a side note to that, we are actively working with the fire department specifically on our forestry stand. Councilmember Kimball was kind enough to convene a meeting between us and Deputy Fire Chief Moeller in November. And then we had a follow-up meeting the week after this last CDP meeting. We met with Fire Prevention Bureau Captain Henderson on December 20th. And so it's a really nice working partnership with them. They're actually going to schedule a meeting in the field with us this month. We're trying to get that meeting going. We're working on a map for them of particular access areas of concern where we can coordinate on Knox boxes, but we certainly can ask their concerns about the narrower trees. But one thing that does happen, and we may have mentioned this at a previous meeting, is those trees are on the interior. If a fire does come from open brush and vegetation and comes up into the tree plantation, which we have experienced several times, the wind speed actually slows down to 1 mile per hour average. That's what we saw in June 21 fire. So the trees serve as a slowing kind of pace for the movement of the fire. So even though those narrower trees are on the inside as the fire does, if it moves in towards that direction, the pace slows down, there's more moisture under the trees. So we haven't seen those narrow trees create a large fire that are on the interior, but nonetheless, we can talk with Captain Henderson, and there was one more Fire Prevention Bureau guy from Kona that's going to join us. And we can talk to them about recommendations or concerns that they may have, given the different kind of conditions we find throughout our plantation forests. And Councilmember Kimball, we can definitely keep you in the loop too as to those discussions.
Great, I'm glad you connected with the fire guys
Yes.
and moving that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, so I guess the last item on the agenda is we had a. Wait a minute. Up I go, there it is. A briefing from the planning department. Is that right?
That's money.
Oh, sorry, testimony.
Sorry for bothering you guys.
Oh,
It's
okay.
night. I'm here to testify in concern for Hāmākua. I talked to the president of the Kumeyaay down there. His name is Kalani Lyman. They were a very big part of the whole Hāmākua mill situation for the last many years, I guess. Right now it's been happening. But according to him, the community haven't been notified that this issue was going to be talked about. And none of them is here to give their testimonies or voice their concerns. So he asked me to show up to help him, ask you guys to maybe if you guys can put this item on this agenda and reschedule it so that they can be here. He's working in Oahu today. He couldn't make it to this meeting, but if he was able to, he would have been here. And so I'm just humbly asking you guys to try and table this agenda item until the next meeting so that they can take part in it.
And what was his name?
Kalani Lyman. Apparently, they created a Kumeyaay, an association for lower Hāmākua. And in the past, they were able to get 5,000 plus signatures. And, you know, these people are still waiting. I know it was tossed out to the court, right? It was passed by Kim and thrown out by Ra. And there's no acceptable answers that they got, you know, or response for it. But it is concerning because it will create a chain reaction down Hāmākua for what's happening there. And I understand that it's wanting to be privatized. And there's a lot of clouded definitions and words that needs to be touched on before even suggesting or giving your recommendation to the planning commission or to the planning department. I think would be fair for them to take part in it. I wasn't part of that process when I did sign a paper for support that stopping of that thing, the eminent domain, I guess it was. But I'm not fully knowledgeable of how that process went. And so, yeah, I'm just here to help them in that community because no one is here.
So he would like to testify at some point.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's working right now, so he couldn't attend it and the Zoom is not working. I guess so. Just to be fair, you know?
Yeah, more than welcome to come and sure, can be an item that's not on the agenda if you want to.
Yeah, but because it is on an agenda, we don't know the next process that they're gonna take and run with.
So just to speak to what you're talking about, I think she's gonna talk a little bit about that.
The plan.
About the opportunity to
Sure.
weigh in on the trail you guys talking about.
Yeah.
Take that back.
Sure. Well, like I said, I never take full process of this understanding of. I just supported it because it is a shoreline access. And it should remain a public access. It shouldn't never be privatized for all personal, private interests for profit. Yeah, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I appreciate you guys' time. Thank you, Heather.
Mhm, good.
Okay, so.
It would be my impression that the two persons, Donald Rudney and Corey Hardin, may have an interest in this, in testimony on this.
Oh. Thank you.
In other
Is
words,
there anyone else that wanted to testify on the
Dr. Donald.
Hāmākua landing? Oh, go ahead, Milani.
Well, I just had a question. If we were to table this and give those community members an opportunity to voice, to share their voices, where does it go? Does it just stay here? Like, does it just stay in the planning until we give our recommendation, or does it move forward?
So just to clarify what's being asked on the agenda is a subdivision application. And subdivision applications are not applications that go through the processes such as planning commission and whatnot. So there's not really, those are handled administratively. So through that process, as they're going, they kind of just, the planners process that application based on code. So there's typically not a moment in the process that is open to public testimony, testifiers to come in. With the Hāmākua CDP Action Committee, they have the ability to come together and put together a letter and address that letter to the director in recommendation or not recommendation or whatever the opinion is on that application. That being said, it is 7:30 at night, and we're really trying to keep these meetings down to a 2-hour time frame. This application is not, the subdivision is still processing, it's not complete. I am not the planner in charge of that application, nor is it even my division. But I do, I think it's appropriate, because there's questions about, I believe, public access happening here, that we can see the requests being made, and we can see what else other testimony was that came in, and talk with the chair a little bit to see what kind of formal update we can give at the next meeting. There's different, it changes depending on what point it is in the process. So I just want to have the most accurate and information at the time for what we're talking about here, about what's possible. They did also have an SMA minor go through with a condition to keep the shoreline trail intact. I forget the actual verbiage, but of that sort. But this is something that we can revisit on the next agenda item, and either get a more concrete briefing from the planner that plan is assigned to, or
And that would still be timely as far as.
Yeah, I'm just concerned.
May,
that this
may
will
I
go-
say something?
Well,
My hand's
let me-
been up and I had a couple people cut me off. I never had a chance to speak on this.
Sure.
okay, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, handle
Yes.
this.
Yes, go ahead,
Can I,
yes.
may I speak?
Yes, yes. I don't know if we
Thank
can-
you. This thing just came up during the holidays. So it was hard reaching people in the planning department. I tried to reach Heather Kimball. She was out of town. It has some problems. The property is 16 acres. The northern half, if you look at the zoning, the northern half is zoned Ag 20. And they're trying to take the 16 acres and divide it into 4 lots. And that's fine. I know there may be some kind of pre-existing thing, but another citizen found that there were some issues with the conservation land boundaries, because there is conservation land involved. And so the planning department discovered that, and this subdivision is not in process. It's been rejected, and there are 2 letters. Tonkini has those letters. I'm not sure if the rest of the action committee has the letters, but they were sent to the landowner, and his petition has been basically rejected. Now he can come back. But my question is, if there's a rezoning involved, then that becomes a public issue. It needs to go before the county board, and it should. And what I'm going to do right now is ask Heather Kimball, please get involved with this. This is your land, this issue. I'm with Jarek. This trail has been an issue since I've been here 14 years. It's a big controversy. This is an opportunity for the county to work with this landowner. If he wants this subdivision, not only should he dedicate that trail to the county, but he should also provide parking up there, because people are going to come anyway, and there's no place to turn around or park up at the end of Mill Road. It's a mess. I took some pictures of the county sign. I had a heck of a time trying to turn my pickup truck around down there because they got the turnaround access and the parking access chained off. And there's no guarantee in that subdivision ordinance that was approved by Zendo Kern that they would guarantee the maintenance of that and access to that trail. It just said the trail still has to exist. So again, this is an opportunity for the county, and I hope you guys, well, when they said you guys, Heather, do the right thing on this one. And the action committee can help by supporting the citizens who had to do the work to finally stop this thing. And I compliment Jeff Darrow because he helped me out. I had trouble reaching people in the county because it was the holidays. I spent an inordinate amount of time on this, and I shouldn't have to do it. This should be done by our county government. And thank you, Jarek, for standing up and asking that this be postponed so more citizens can give input. Should be brought before the county board. And the mayor should do something too. Where's the mayor on this? That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I can confirm what Don has said, that the subdivision has been repealed, so it's not in progress, and I'm happy to share those letters, or I'm sure you guys can get it from Jeff. I would say that I think you had originally requested that Brian Clark, who is the new owner, be present. I have met with him. It's a very different ballgame than it was under the previous ownership of this property. He is very committed to keeping that access open. And in fact, I've been down there a couple of times, just recently, one more time before I went on vacation. He's maintained it. He's actually improved it a little bit. So, you know, I don't put the cart before the horse here. This is somebody that is committed to keeping that open. But there were problems with the subdivision, as you mentioned, and I'm glad that Jeff was able to respond to you promptly.
Was the SMA minor approved?
I don't think so. Yeah, the document I saw was only about the subdivision. But I'd have to go to.
Which the SMA.
They were tied, they were tied, so I think,
The subdivision,
yeah, I think,
but not building the home, but allowing the subdivision.
I think they were pulled back, yeah.
Really, because it seemed like.
Yeah.
Based on what I saw, Con.
On the last director's report, it was showing as approved.
I literally got this email this morning, I think,
So,
yeah, or maybe late yesterday.
so I think that's what's happened. At the last planning commission, it was shown as approved. Since then, all that other items that Donald has mentioned has happened.
Yeah.
So the
Tentative
subdivision
approval, I guess.
application was denied. And the SMA minor,
I believe so,
It
but
would
I'll
have,
confirm.
if the subdivision has also been, it's gonna be part of it. It has not.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
The SMA was denied. The SMA was denied, and the subdivision was actually part of that SMA. And can I make one other comment, please? We cannot rely on the whims of a private party to maintain this. He might be a nice guy, his intentions might be good. He could pass on or sell the property, and then somebody else takes it over, and then they block it off. Jarek brought that up. Jarek was right on the money. This needs to be public because it needs public access, not private access. Anytime you have private access, it's a problem because the private people start, even flag lots. The planning department should ban flag lots because they're shared driveways that cause all kind of problems. And it's the same thing with this. This will be a problem in the future if it's controlled by a private entity. Thank you.
I have to say, why are we taking this issue up here? It's not even on our agenda.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Which one is
Law,
it?
it's six. But
There's the next.
Oh, okay.
I-
I'm sorry, excuse me.
I also have to, though, second what Heather said. I went down there a few weeks ago for the first time in my life, and it is manicured, beautiful, beautifully taken care of going down to the beach down there. And there's a sense in which it's hard to imagine. And the rule that is on the sign on the gate, beautiful gate, sign on the gate does say that access is available, open to the public between 6:30 in the morning and 6:30 in the evening. There's a sense in which the gentleman, the owner, is probably making available to the public this beach in a very generous way that the county may not be able to accomplish. So I would certainly say, that this gentleman needs the kudos of the public, thanking him. My tendency is also, though, to feel that, yes, access to the beaches should be public, should be a public right of way. But I think in being a public right of way, it will never meet the elegance. My understanding is that it had to be accessed by ladder. At least that was what was in the subdivision application. That previously, you had to go down the ladder to get down to the beach. So I think the sense of working together is well demonstrated in this particular instance. That we should work with respect to this gentleman who is whose property it is. My thoughts.
I just asking Debbie here, there have been 2 attempts to make this a public path. One was a eminent domain, which was vetoed by the mayor at the time, which was Mayor Kim.
It was dismissed by Judge Malcolm.
And then dismissed, yes, and then we had, we did attempt to nominate it as a POMP purchase. But because the seller was unwilling, it was not actually proceed through that, follow through. The scenario is different now. I don't think the eminent domain scenario is different because of the previous situation, but that is a potential avenue. But your point is actually well made, Ton. The concern, and this would even be a concern with POMP purchase, is the potential liability to the county because of the structure that's down there that is quite dangerous. So it's going to have complications regardless. But that is an avenue that could be considered.
Wait a minute, is that a public beach?
Yeah, the beach is public.
But the problem is access to it.
The trail is on private property,
Yeah.
but the owner allows people to traverse the property to access the beach within those hours.
But he's not willing to deed it over to the county?
No, actually,
Maybe he might. be
he
not.
might be. So we've been in discussions about the road, because that road is also a private road, which speaks to the parking issue. But that's a possibility too.
Right, let me just make it real quick.
But I don't know that the mayor would take it.
Yeah.
Because he didn't, we did have a hearing on this, and not sure if Mr. Redney remembers, but we did have a hearing on this, and the mayor and the managing director came in and said they would not pursue the acquisition of that trail because of the liability potential.
The current thing.
The liability of getting down to the beach.
Well, yeah, just the whole, the trail itself is actually quite good and like it's well maintained, and it's a little steep for me coming. But it's down there, the beach and the mill area has some.
And there's a wreck.
And there's potential environmental hazards. I mean, it's an old mill site, so that's where that has been as far as the administration's position.
But if you are, is the county or somebody setting a precedent here? And that the owner says, I'm gonna maintain public access. Well, if somebody gets injured, going down to the beach, where does that leave the property owner?
So they're protected under HRS for public
The
access.
private landowner.
Yeah.
Is.
Yeah.
Run that by me again, what?
The private landowner is protected under HRS,
Under state law.
under state law, sorry, to be clear.
When she allows the public.
This whole liability issue, it continues to rear its ugly head in everything we do. And as far as I'm concerned, yes, I understand, the exposure and stuff, but from a community standpoint, it just doesn't cut it. Just plain, because, jurisdictions all over, everywhere have to deal with this, and it's constantly used as a escape hatch. And frankly, I'm just kind of sick and tired.
I actually couldn't agree with you more,
Yeah.
Brad. I mean, that I have that vision of a trail from
Yeah.
Hilo to Hāmākua to Honoka'a, and it's the liability is part of it.
Yeah.
And, we're a self-insured county. That certainly is
Yeah.
something that we're
Just
looking
because we
into.
let so many of our facilities, throughout this Hāmākua coast, deteriorate just because deferred maintenance and liability. And then there've been people, community organizations that have stepped up to the plate to take them over and take on the liability, but they're still not willing to do that. And so I don't really buy that. And then, as far as specifics about this particular property, it's kind of like, the issue with the conservation and, the general plan and then the CDP. And there is a conservation sliver. And when we did the Hāmākua CDP, we did keep that thing open. The conservation in the report that was provided noted that the conservation ended at the Payne, pit. And that's historical. And so, we need to look at the future guidance and then use that kind of common sense to what, this is one of the few properties that we have along the coast. The other one being Hakalau Bay, which is now closed because of, and that's the whole issue. And then we also had the Hakalau Point, with Shropshire on that one involved. And so, we got to look at the resource and look at the greater common good and operate from that standpoint. That's why we have the CDP, process. And so I just want to kind of, kudos to, these guys who came out, because that's where the rubber meets the road. And we need to hear the community. And yes, we went through that whole process with the eminent domain, but I think it really is an opportunity, because we missed an opportunity when the plantations went belly up. And they left a legacy that has created constant conflict. And so even that road to the end of the road is a private road. And if they wanted to cut off all those people, that whole camp, from accessing their property, they possibly could, and that was the opportunity that we missed back then to provide access. And this also happens to be, people call it a, ruins, and it is, but it's historic. And it tells the story of our history. And, once those things are, either blocked off, then those access to those memories and places become, they disappear as people pass on. And so, to me, that's important. And so I'm gonna, I'm glad that we'll just continue the process to at least hear the community voice and then look at what are the opportunities now that we have a new one.
In what sense is the beach public? I think you said the beach was public. It looks on the,
All the beaches.
All the coastline is public up to the 5 water mark. Right?
But if you have.
Yeah.
Chair, we're nearing 20
Mahalani,
minutes
you have,
over. We're 20 minutes over. Without me, I would, after your comment, that we kind of defer this agenda item for the next meeting and then What's
Yeah.
was the name?
She's just been trying to get in, I think.
Absolutely.
Um, I just wanted to remind, those who, like Heather and Tom, you guys did go down and see how well maintained this guy is keeping it. However, the purpose of this being on our agenda, is because he wants to subdivide it. Subdividing to me means he wants to sell it. Honestly, this is one of the things that I had hoped we had more time to talk about, because I'm taken aback because this is royal patent land, which means he had gotten it quiet titled. Um, Whoever had sold it to him had gotten it from Theo Davies, who illegally purchased or sold the land for their assets or whatever. Anyway, that in one aspect is very disheartening to me. And the second thing is that when this does come up, I hope that we do leave more time for the community to um, give their responses. I know, Donald, thank you for your comment. I also wanted to I'm ending with saying that I hope that in our future we keep our agenda items a little shorter, because there seem to be a lot of comments on most of them, and for that one, when the community comes next month, if we're gonna keep it on our agenda item for next month, when they come, I hope we can give them a lot of time to talk about it and just give them the space that they need to share what they need to share. And Dave, you're gonna have a really good job at being the mediator and the guy be like, hey, hold up. I know the 3 minutes help. However, people don't get to their point like me until the last 30 seconds. So thank you guys so much for everything. Mahalo.
Thank you. Okay, are we all ready to go home?
And I just have just one minute.
Yeah.
I know
Oh,
she
come
tried
on.
to cut me up. I've had my hand up for a while now. I just want to thank the gentleman on the action committee that spoke. I don't know his name, but the last one that spoke. And I agree with him 100%. This liability issue is specious. The mayor came up with that on the eminent domain. We have, if you drive around the island, I could show you 50 areas where the county has significant liability on the roads and the bridges all over the place. Our infrastructure is somewhat antiquated, archaic, but it's also very interesting. I hiked in the Rocky Mountain National Park. If you use that philosophy there, you'd close all the trails. They're all dangerous. So, we really have to keep this public, try to keep it as safe as possible. And if you do that, the county will be protected. So that's all I have to say, but I do want to thank that gentleman because he was spot on everything he said. I agree 100% with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Donald. All right, so I guess right, agenda for the next meeting, so,
Well, we never got to item 5, so I'd like to make that number 1 on the next meeting.
like,
I
who
mean,
was
we
street?
just pass that one over.
Well, we had to make some decisions tonight. We still have 3 more to go. That's, so like, who was street? Oh, there we are. Anybody else have any agenda items?
I would like to form a permitted interaction group to investigate the opinions of the residents of the YPO to Hāmākua Road and the opinions of the Hāmākua Business Association members and the opinions of the Mud Lane residents in terms of creating an emergency route from Kukui Highway to Mud Lane versus creating a public roadway from Kukui Highway to Mud Lane.
Could
You're
you
talking
email
about
that to me?
Item
Yeah.
4.
Yeah, that would be good.
Thank
So,
you.
no, I think a process that we can do right now is, if committee members have an agenda item suggestion, maybe you can email David, CC Mariam, and CC myself, and then that way we can, formulate it so that, the public can understand exactly what the agenda item is, if that's okay with
Yeah,
everybody.
we will
Going
get that.
forward.
And somehow limit the time frame.
Yeah, I'm thinking, we had ideas of putting, time limits in the agenda, 40 minutes for this agenda item or so forth, so. We can brainstorm that in the future, just a guidepost.
I mean, does
But
everyone,
Richard, do you have that, for Lehua Street, is there a letter that you have? Could you send that to David as well?
Sure.
And, so we can think it'd be good to follow that process, and then, we can just, ask for a motion to adjourn.
do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion.
Second?
Wait, did Robert have something to say?
Sorry. I thought you were motioning.
I'm really curious about the new committee that President Morris is going to chair. I'd like her to give a presentation to us. What is the function of the committee? The reason I'm asking.
The department, Robert,
What that?
it's a new department in the county,
Yeah, but it is a new department. I want to know what it's all about.
right?
So I want her to come and explain to us what her role is. If I see it as a potential. For the fisherman's enthusiasm, access is one issue. But catching fish is another issue. And this is where the state and the county sits in silos and say, it's not my problem. Maybe this is a vehicle we could cross that boundary and give the county some guts to go ahead and address the issues of the get off. And people like the fishermen will speak up for that. And it's all this political sensitivity with each other, If this group came up and spoke about excess is one thing, but catching fish is another. So can our committee be the vehicle to light that fire, to devise that sort of. So the members of Hāmākua don't feel isolated, they have a way to get to other agencies to bring that forward so they can hear it. So maybe Bethany Morrison can come and ask us what her committee is all about. And maybe from there we can go, what is going to be the next step?
Stephanie's the last.
And I'd like to maybe put a way to bridge the silo issue.
Robert, would you be able to email Chair and CC Mariam and myself with that request? Okay, perfect. And a motion to adjourn.
I think we had a motion. Did we have a second?
Second,
Second,
Just call for the- All in favor?
all in favor?
You should have seen me at the end of today's council meeting.
I think that was everyone.
Good job,
Any opposed?
David. Good job.
All right, thank you.
Meeting
Thank you.
adjourned at 7:07.
Adjourned.
Thank you all.
That's only fair.
Congratulations, David.